This thing on? Good evening. My name is Jeff Fritzmeyer. I am the orchestra director for Chelsea Public Schools. And as many of you are probably, I've had a long and torrid affair with Bob and Pam Phillips. And they're two of my favorite people in the world, and I could wax eloquent all day, but I'm going to try to be as concise as I can, because we have a lot to do. If you notice, the program's rather full. So I'll go quickly. I have a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt that many people will walk in and out of your life, but only true friends will leave footprints in your heart. Well, Bob and Pam kind of just stomped all over me. And Bob's the reason I became a public school orchestra director. It's true, I wasn't going to do it. Fact is, I had so much fun teaching that camp with him in student teaching that I got a job in Chelsea and I never looked back. Started the Chelsea House Orchestra with Bob's inspiration, and a lot of the things that have happened in Chelsea are a direct result of his influence. And our orchestra program is as much of art culture as I think any place. And I'm very proud to have had an opportunity to work with Bob on bringing our orchestra program up to the level of solutions. So his influence is felt throughout the country, especially with bringing folk music as standard fare in the orchestra curriculum. And we all know that the reason Bob can maintain himself and tie his shoes is pen clubs. Yeats said, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Bob and Pam Phillips are serial arsonists. This is going to be a great night, seeing and hearing all the fires they started, and I'm proud to call them two of my best friends, and I get to be the first one to say it. Thanks, Bob and Pam Phillips. We as teachers cannot do our job and cannot survive without the support of our administration. Watching Bob do all the things that he did in Saline, first building successful programs, starting the fiddlers, traveling with the group, and all the clinics and workshops Bob and Pam did, required tremendous patience and support from his administration. And did I mention patience? Please welcome with thanks present Saline School Superintendent Scott Graydon and past Superintendent Ellen Ewing to the stage.
Thank you. It's rather intimidating to be up here in a facility named for the other superintendent. But it's a distinct pleasure to be here tonight and to celebrate the contributions of Bob and Pam Phillips and what they've meant to this community. Bob began his career with Saline High School as student teacher and was hired in the fall of 1976. That fall, he was a halftime strings, halftime band position, according to his file. And on his application, that was filled out for Saline Schools on August 2nd, 1976. And that's an important date because that was also my 5th birthday. On the application, it asked the question, it said, give a candid description of yourself, stressing those personal qualities which you feel characterize your work. And Bob wrote, I am aggressive, I have a thorough knowledge of my subject, I can work with people easily and have an instant rapport with kids. My dedication to my field is total, since music is both my vocation and my avocation. Very telling words, and Bob lived up to those words. And I can only assume that Pam actually wrote those words. It was very clear early on when we hired Bob, we got a great team. And Bob and Pam took that halftime strings position and built an empire. Energy, passion, commitment to the Saline area schools, to their students, to the community, and to their family. It really has left an enduring legacy in our community. More than 38 years after that application was filled out, Saline area schools and the Saline community continue to benefit from their hard work and their dedication. Thank you.
Now, Scott's too young to consider himself a contemporary of Bob and Pam, but of course I'm not. And I'm very proud to be able to say that I was a colleague of theirs. I have 2 short stories to tell you. The first one happened in the late 90s, and I clearly remember that day. Bob called and said that he and Pam were being courted by a prestigious university out of state. And what did I think of that? Well, let me tell you, I thought the community would snatch me bald and I look like Scott if they left the community on my watch. watch, but they didn't. However, I did know that people were watching them. They couldn't hide that light under a bushel too much longer, and someone would come along in the future and pull them away from this community. Well, shortly after that scare, I was volunteering for the chamber parade, and Bob and Pam were the grand marshals. And as they exited the fire station, they were surrounded by people, 3 and 4 people deep. And they were well-wishers, of course, but many parents who said, oh, I'm so-and-so, and we just moved here, and here's my little son, and I have him in the strings program, and I also have him in private lessons. That just was a testimony to what had happened to the strings program under Bob and Pam, and that their reputation was far and wide. It was also a testimony to the two of them, because people knew that whenever they approached Bob and Pam, no matter how busy they were always greeted with a smile, and Bob and Pam took the time to listen to them. Those are just 2 reasons why many of us are here tonight, to give honor and praise to the 2 people who have given so much to the Saline community. Thank you, Bob and Pam.
The next person is one of Bob's and my, probably one of our biggest influences. He was the one that put us together. I student taught in Saline with Bob, and that's how we met. And there's a lot of stories about it now. This Professor Culver is absolutely, we call him Uncle Bob. He's had an incredible career. He has incredible influence on it throughout the country, and he's one of those people that I'm just lucky to have in my life, as well as Bob and Pam. So please welcome Professor Bob Culver.
I came to the area in 1977, having been wooed away from Ohio State University. And it was really quite an experience. One of the very first people that I met was Bob Phillips, who had just begun his journey in developing this program. And in the years since then, 35 of them, it's been amazing to watch this grow. It's come from the efforts of people without much experience to become the beacon of the string world in the United States. And I'm not exaggerating. I have been clinicking in all 52 states, and I've conducted 43 different all-state orchestras. And in many of those, I've had the opportunity to speak to people who are in various stages of program development. And without any hesitation, I've been able to speak about Bob and Pam and what's happening here in Saline. Folks, what happens here in Saline is contagious. That's why Chelsea has a good program. That's why Dexter has a good program. That's why we're sitting in a wonderful auditorium. If that program had not been good, if they didn't look proud, if they didn't conduct themselves well, if they didn't play in tune, you wouldn't be here. No, you just wouldn't be here. So it's been a wonderful time to see this grow and able to promote literally throughout the world the qualities that have been here in Saline. Now I have to tell you that one of the qualities also has the same last name that I do. It's Ben Culver, is my son, and who's about to show
Here's Ben Culver in the middle school combined string orchestras. Wow, that's a crowd. As orchestra directors, we rely heavily on our band directors, and it's a relationship that can go up or down. And Bob has had the opportunity to work with two, I think, of the best people and musicians that I can imagine. And I'm proud to say they're my friends too. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome John Mason and Nate Lanton to the stage.
Good evening. When I came to Saline, Bob had been here for a year or two. We kind of made our way as young teachers, learning from each other and developing a friendship that continues today. Over the years, we've had many great and some very interesting mentors and administrators to work for. You may recognize some of these names, you may not. Norman Canton, Clem Corona, Maury Kahn, David Walter, Paul Tebow, and Ellen Ewing. Bob and I both owe a lot to Paul Tebow for keeping us out of trouble and on the straight and narrow. Through the years, Bob and I have developed a number of codes to live by. Among them were avoid embarrassment at all costs. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. It's okay to lose the battle as long as you win the war.
So Bob always took time to share these sage expressions with me when I was a young teacher, quipping little helpful remarks like, Nate, my job is to make sure that you don't fall flat on your face. And in meetings, pretty much just keep your mouth shut and don't say anything stupid.
It took me a little while to get to know Pam, but one of the first memories I have of how she and Bob functioned together was the chocolate incident. I have always thought of Bob as an in-charge kind of guy. Then I met Pam. We have been selling chocolate bars to raise money for the music program. We unwisely kept the chocolate in our office. Before school, in between classes, at lunch, after school, whenever there was a break, we would occasionally have a bite, or two, or three. After 2 weeks of selling, we could not figure out why we were over $100 short. Well, needless to say, the fear in Bob's eyes when he realized he would have to go home and ask Pam for $50 told me where the real power was.
So as a colleague, Bob was the best you could ever ask for. He always took the time to check in with you, even to see how you were doing, even when he was really, really busy. What is really special about Bob is he was always so supportive of what you were doing and was always looking out for all the students in the program.
In short, Bob and Pam brought out the best in everyone around them. They made our lives better, and we know they did the same for thousands of students in Saline.
Well, we all look for it, but the next speaker is, the only description I can use is really inspiration. Bob and I had the opportunity during our college careers to spend an hour a week in the bass studio with this great pedagogue. I would call him a pedagog. And we learned so much musically, so much about how to get problem solving, get things done, and it transferred directly into our classrooms, and it was a tremendous opportunity for us. Please welcome Larry Hurst, professor of bass from U of M and Indiana University.
Tonight we come to honor Bob and Pam Phillips. We come to pay tribute to their tireless efforts in enriching the lives of many families here and in the community of Saline by involving them all in music and music making. My part in all this tonight is relatively small, but as you will see, somewhat far-reaching. You see, I knew Bob long before he came to Saline, and before many of you that are gathered here this evening even knew him. In fact, I knew him before he met Pam. and even before he had that mustache. I first knew him as an aspiring freshman double-A student at Ewing. The year was 1972, and Bob had enrolled in a music education program at Michigan. Now, anyone that knows anything at all about music and studies at universities will tell you that if you go into music education, you are definitely an outsider. Now, there are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, performance degree students want less competition, so they actually demean those who are not in performance. Secondly, the music ed curriculum is virtually in every music school that offers such a degree, and many more requirements to fulfill, and many more things to do in terms of practice and support than the performance majors. The biggest difference being, of course, in the coursework and the amount of time they have to practice. Bob, of course, knew all this coming in, so early during the first weeks of the fall semester of his freshman year, Bob had asked if he could come in to see me. We set the time, and Bob came in with a real somber expression on his face. "Professor Hersey stammered, 'I'm a music ed major, and I just want you to know that I will try to practice at least 3 hours a day.' I was a little taken aback by his candor, so I said, 'Bob, that's really a wonderful goal, but frankly, I'm not too interested in how many hours a day you practice.' He looked stunned. 'Really?' he said. 'Yes, because in life, it's results that count. So if you can do the assignments that I give you to my satisfaction in 1 hour a day, then so be it.' 'Wow,' he said, rather relieved. 'Of course,' I continued, I'm confident you will not meet or satisfy my assignments, even in 3 hours of work a day. None of the performance majors do, and most of them practice 4 to 5, 6 hours a day. You see, Bob, when you step through the door with a bass in your hand, you are no longer a performance or music ed major, you're a bass player. Beethoven, Brahms, Mozart, Strauss, and others didn't discriminate in their music about what program you're in. They just expected it to be note perfect and musically communicative. So that is what I expect from you and everyone else in the bass class." He left the office with a most perplexed expression on his face. Over the course of the next 6 years, I never, ever had to ask Bob how much he practiced. He was always prepared for his lessons, and he kept up and surpassed many of his performance colleagues. And in all kinds of performance situations, in the orchestra, in solo playing, in the master classes, and in small ensembles. Bob is and was a dedicated and serious musician who cares only for the genuineness and communicative power of the music he makes and for his students. He teaches those qualities to everyone under his charge. Saline was very lucky indeed to have Bob and Pam Phillips in their midst. Thank you.
I have a little story. Jim Kane was a student in the 80s with Bob and I, and he was in the orchestras at Camden. He sent this in. We were getting ready for a festival and things weren't going well. I think we were playing something really tricky like the fourth movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. It's hard to be sure because we played so many challenging pieces that we would have rattled most folks. Thank you, Bob, Brandenburg, and Charles, etc. Anyway, Bob was doing a daily Tasmanian devil impression. So I decided that the time was right for a practical joke. After giving almost no thought to the matter, I decided that Miss August, from a French language Playboy I bought in Canada on a Boy Scout trip, would look good taped in the middle of Bob's score. The trouble was the score never left his sight. Not to be thwarted, I ended up taping it to the back of my bass during class and giving sneak peeks to every viola player and cellist who glanced my way. People started laughing so hard they needed astronaut pants. Astronaut pants. It is funnier the second time. Pretty soon, no one could hit a note, and Bob got so purple he could have played Grimace. It was a massive eruption, rivaled only by the dad in A Christmas Story. It was some weeks before he knew what went down, and I never did thank him properly for not having me kicked out of school. Funny thing though, that centerfold went missing after first hour. Where did it go, Bob? We love to conduct our high school groups. Bob's often talked about the fact that he misses that. They can reach incredible musical heights. It must be more amazing to hear the music that you actually composed yourself. And so here is the high school combined string orchestras playing Bob's own piece, American Princess. that Bob and I are bass players, and that sort of says it all. If you don't know what that means, figure it out. It's kind of a bass player attitude, actually. But as a bass player, there's a sort of a kindred soul in what we do and how we look at things, and we kind of have immediate relationships with people. The fact is that the next speaker is another bass player, and he does great things in music education. He is a good friend of mine at the University of Michigan. Please welcome Dr. Michael Hopkins.
Thank you. There's a saying that a rising tide lifts all boats. This was made popular in a speech by President Kennedy and is often used to describe the economy. In nature, of course, the gravitational forces of the moon and sun, combined with the rotation of the earth, produce the rising tides that lift all the boats. But in music education, for over 30 years, Bob and Pam have been a force of nature that neither Newton or Einstein's theories could have predicted. Tonight, we celebrate the tremendous work they did in this community to provide literally thousands of students with quality music education. But I can tell you that their boundless energy and leadership created a tide that rose so high that not only is it still felt in Saline today, but they continue to lift the boats of string education throughout the great state of Michigan and throughout the United States and beyond. And I see this as I go around the country and I meet people and I talk to people in other states, and I can tell you that their influence has just been tremendous. Bob and Pam are a great team because they bring vision, innovation, and creativity balanced with planning, logistics, and common sense. These are two skill sets that I can tell you are not always found in combination in our profession. But I think most importantly, though, for Bob and Pam, it's never been about themselves. It's been about helping other people realize their potential, about making things better than they currently are, about how a great music education can enhance the quality of life and transform the human spirit. I know for myself that Bob and Pam have been extremely supportive of my creative work and my teaching and my service to the state for almost 20 years now. And I'm guessing there isn't a single person in this audience today whose life hasn't been positively impacted by a decision that the Phillips made at some point in the last 20 or 30 years. And you might not even be aware of how much of a positive impact their actions and decisions made upon you, but nonetheless, I can tell you it is very real and true. And so, Bob and Pam, thank you both for lifting all of our boats. We will honor your legacy by trying our best not to sail our boats into the rocks. Thank you so much, Bob and Pam.
So far, this has just been sort of a music fest, all the music teachers and all that. The fact is that we love our jobs, but every once in a while we need a break. And the next little event are people that Bob and Pam are people that take them away from this grind. When Bob and I hang out, all we do is talk shop. It always comes down to shop. So this is Jim and Beth Williscroft. They are the non-music friends of Pam and Bob. I'm kind of curious what they have to say about it. Maybe they don't have anything to say about it.
Good evening, Bob and Pam. We regret that we're unable to join you for this wonderful celebration, but would like to share in the time of reminiscence. I fully expect that others will comment on what a striking figure you cut, Bob, in your tutu and some of your other costumes. And so I won't go into those memories. Rather, I'll remember with the audience what a master teacher you are. I recall very vividly having the opportunity to observe you at work with a group of middle school jazz improvers at 7 a.m. in the morning. Watching you work with these young people was truly an enlightening experience. I recall one morning where essentially the whole hour you conducted the rehearsal without ever speaking. Your creativity, your thoughtfulness, your understanding of how to be a teacher, how to work with these children, move them forward, not only in their performance skills, but also their development as young people, was truly masterful. Since then, we've had the opportunity to get to know you and Pam in a very different way. I continue to be incredibly impressed with what a visionary, not only teacher, but also thoughtful leader in education you are. We've had wonderful discussions together. I hope we will have many more. I've also come to realize what an incredible partner Pam is, not only for you, but also for all of the students and others that the two of you have touched. Congratulations once again on your achievements and also on this recognition.
Well, as we all know, behind every great man there's a greater woman. But seriously, Bob would be the first one to tell you that this was never a one-man show. I think it would be very challenging for a husband and wife to work together professionally, but Bob and Pam make a great team. I think Pam's primary job is to keep him, period, keep him focused, keep him healthy, keep him from burning out, whatever it takes. But Pam's ability to plan, organize, and coordinate make her somewhat of a logistical genius, and she has her own creative bent. We know her to be an empathetic listener who is resourceful and offers helpful advice. As the Turkish proverb says, no road is long with good company, we have traveled many miles along Michigan's west coast with Bob and Pam, and they are awesome travel companions. Additionally, Bob and Pam are devoted to their family, hardworking, humble, and they're just plain fun to be with. Good friends are rare, but friends like Bob and Pam are an endangered species. Congratulations.
Few of you know that the fact is that Bob and I are married. When I was a student teacher for the Halloween concert, we did get married and I was the groom. A really funny looking mustached pregnant bride Bob made. Anyway, High School Chamber Orchestra is going to play a piece that I love. This is a piece that we played last year, 2 years ago on tour with my orchestras in Philadelphia. This piece is called Aspire. us as orchestra teachers and string players, one of those resources has to be a string instrument company called Sharp Products. And tonight, as one of the supporters of the Saline Orchestra program and the Saline Pillars, and he's got close ties to this program in a lot of respects. This Rich Cody here. Please welcome to the stage Hiker Sherian, president of Sharp Products.
Hello, like Jed said, I'm Hiker Sherian, president of Sharp Products Company in Ann Arbor. Bob and Pam, what a night. I'm not sure where you are, but this is spectacular. I'd also like to point out to one person, these events don't just spontaneously happen. This has to be an inspiration and a vision. And so somewhere, Sheila Graziano, I think we all wrote a bit of applause. I've been at Shar 20 years. It's a family business. My father, Charles F. Sherian, is in Shanghai now at an international music trade show, which is why he's not here. He asked me to read something, but for those of you who know my dad, he can be a little long-winded, so I decided to edit it down a little bit, so I'll scan through. So there's some notes here. Halloween concert, the Pink Tutu, I remember that. My brother Richard playing the Bach double, Bob will certainly remember that. Elizabeth Green, Larry Hurst, a lot of other things, and pause for laughter. Good up. And if anyone sees my dad the next few days, just tell him it was long and glorious. We're all good. But here's really his main, what he really wanted to say. Dear Bob and Pam, while building our family company for 50 years, my relationship with string teaching organizations brought me in contact with hundreds of educators. I want to say that you have both been such an inspiration to me and virtually everyone that has been fortunate enough to work with you. With the two of you, it has always been about how to help and inspire the youth in music and advance music education in our nation and beyond. Looking forward to sitting together soon with you both, Charlie. My family has had a long and wonderful history with Bob and Pam Phillips. Bob, Pam, on behalf of Shar and the Sherian family, thank you so much for everything you've done. Thanks also for letting me crash at your house and treating me to a boat ride and ice cream in beautiful Grand Haven. I appreciate that. But I'm here tonight to share my business perspective on the impact that Bob and Pam Phillips have had to string education, which has already been mentioned a little bit. But to do that, I'm going to talk about my 5-year-old daughter, Megan. Megan started playing the violin back in January when she was 4 and a half. She really enjoys it and has been doing very well. Her teacher is a Suzuki teacher. Suzuki, for those of you who aren't familiar with Suzuki, is probably the largest string method in the world. The Suzuki Violin Book 1, for example, sold over 100,000 copies last year. One of those 100,000 Suzuki Violin Book 1s was for my Megan. If you combine the sales of all Suzuki books for stringed instruments sold in 2013, it's over 500,000 units were sold. Pam Phillips is the managing editor for Suzuki at Alpha. Bob and Pam together work with the Suzuki Association and the Suzuki International Association on all Suzuki publications. They recently met with the Suzuki International Association board and will no doubt play a role in shaping a vision for that organization in the future, as they've done with the American String Teachers Association. If Megan continues playing the violin, it would be unfortunate if she wanted to play French horn, seeing as though I sell violins for a living. I hope she has the opportunity that I had, which was to play the school orchestra program in middle school and in high school. If she does, I know I'll have Bob and Pam to thank for not only their years of advocacy for the importance of string education, but also for the positive impact they've had on so many string educators locally and around the country. Hopefully, especially hopefully for Bob and Pam, the school orchestra director will use one of their books they have written, like String Explorer, which collectively have sold over 500,000 copies and an estimated 5 million in sales. Even better, I hope Megan has the opportunity to play eclectic styles like fiddling and jazz, rock, in addition to classical repertoire. Bob was a trailblazer for eclectic styles, with the Saline Fiddlers and his Fiddling Method book series. Bob and Pam's leadership within the American String Teachers Association, also known as ASTA, cannot be understated. I've been in the industry representative on the ASTA board and have witnessed firsthand the leadership they have provided and continue to provide. They have helped organize multiple national conferences, put on countless string clinics around the country and around the world. They have helped inspire and educate a generation of string teachers. If I had to boil it down to one sentence, it would be this: Bob and Pam Phillips are quite literally shaping the future of string education in this country. One day, if all goes well, I hope my Megan, along with thousands and thousands of other kids around the country, will be able to look back at a challenging, rewarding, and fun experience playing the violin, or the viola, cello, and bass. If she does, I'll be sure to let her know that she has Bob and Pam Phillips to thank for helping make that experience possible. Thank you, and thanks, Bob and Pam.
Another example of inspiration for Bob and Pam is our next speaker, an extraordinary band director, motivational speaker. He's professor of bands at Hofstra University, a published author and collaborator with Bob and Pam in a method book entitled Sound Innovations. Here's a word from Bob and Pam's friend and collaborator, Professor Peter Boonshaft. I need to make these longer.
Good evening to all those who have gathered to celebrate and honor Bob and Pam Phillips. My name is Peter Boonshaft, and unfortunately I can't be there with you tonight in person because of travel schedules, but I am honored to be there even remotely to say a few words about these two human beings. I'm convinced that in this world, if you're lucky, you'll find some teachers who really matter in your life. Luckier still, if you find people who have made great contributions to the world, especially when it comes to contributions for children and for the arts and for humanity. Luckier still, if you find some people who are just incredible human beings. And the luckiest of all is if you can number them as friends. I've had the honor and privilege of knowing Bob and Pam Phillips for a long time. And I'm humbled to have been part of several projects that they were involved in. Throughout it all, I had the model of excellence, imagination, creativity, resourcefulness, perseverance, and a work ethic that was second to none. But the greatest model I had in these two incredible human beings is that you can do all of that and still be the nicest, kindest, most sincere and genuine human beings the world could ask for. Bob and Pam, I hope you know how much you matter to all those who have gathered, and to more people in this world than you will ever get to meet. For your gifts and your talents and your kindness is everywhere because of your life's work. I hope you know that I don't possess the words to thank you enough for all you've done for our profession and for me. But from the bottom of my heart, I send my love, my appreciation, my congratulations, and the hope that you cherish every minute of tonight. Thank you.
While I was student teaching with Bob, I had a wonderful bass student, double bass student. His name was Sean Wood. This next speaker is not him. It's actually his brother, his twin brother, Shannon Wood, who was a timpanist with the Grand Rapids Symphony until recently he got a job in St. Louis. And Bob and Pam got to know him and got to hang out with him as an adult the last few years when he was playing with the symphony in Grand Rapids. And he really wanted to contribute, so let's hear what Shannon has to say about Bob and Pam.
Hi, I'm Shannon Wood, Principal Timpanist of the St. Louis Symphony. I graduated from Saline High School in 1985 and was a member of the wind ensemble and marching band under John Mason, jazz band under Mr. Caviani, and Saline High School Orchestra under Bob Phillips. I first worked with Mr. Phillips in MYI, Michigan Youth International. I think this may have been my summer before high school. We toured Mexico, which was my first trip out of the country and my first exposure to a different culture. It was an amazing experience. Musically, it was my first time playing with an orchestra. We played Mussorgsky's Night on Bald Mountain. I'll never forget something that Mr. Phillips said to the strings once during rehearsal, and it stuck with me ever since. They were trying to get through this technical passage, and he stopped the orchestra and said how musically we have so much that we want to say, but technically we're not ready yet. Basically, he was saying we were hindered by what we wanted to say musically. It's always resonated with me, and it's so true. Often our technique gets in the way of what we want to say because we just haven't developed the skill to say it quite right yet. It's part of what has driven me to get the best technical instruction available and practice my tail off. Another moment that has stuck with me brings me now to high school. We were playing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the first time I ever played it, by the way. There's this epic moment in the first movement where there's this grand pause after an anticipation builds, and it just leaves you hanging out there before the rhythmic motif comes back. Da, 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 da. And so, what do you know? I played in the silent bar of this epic moment. I remember Liam Lavery, our bassoonist, turning and giving me a grin. Of course I was embarrassed, and thankfully it was just a dress rehearsal, not the actual performance. But every time I play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, I think of that moment. Mr. Phillips, Saline High School Orchestra, Beethoven 5. The beginning of a path that brought me here to the stage of St. Louis. I'm forever grateful for these musical beginnings and such great support by my high school mentors. Thank you, Mr. Phillips, for everything you've contributed to my musical development. I really wish you the best.
Bob said he was going to quit teaching and become a composer and publisher. I thought he was nuts. I told him so. As some of you understand, that I really have no buffer. Bufferless. But anyway, the fact is that I've had to eat my words time and time again. And he is now working for Alfred Music, obviously. And Bob and Pam are both major contributors. And Alfred really wanted to have something to say. They have a lot to say about Bob. Andrew Sermani at Alfred says, Bob Phillips is a legend in the world of music education, and specifically string education. He has dedicated his life to teaching young students and helping future generations through his methods in music. Lives are being changed every day due to the contributions that this man has given to string education all over the world. Of course, none of this would be possible without his wife and life partner Pam at his side every step of the way. One of Bob's daughters said it best when Bob was talking to her about going into an assisted living facility someday. She said, "Dad, you've been in assisted living for over 35 years. When you think of Bob Phillips, you smile. He's a ball of energy and passion. He's given his love of music to hundreds of thousands of students and will continue to give it to them for generations to come. Let's see, what else does Alfred have to say?
Hi everyone, this is Robert Sheldon, and I just wanted to say congratulations to Bob and Pam. Such a wonderful event and so well deserved, and we're just so thrilled that everyone in Michigan loves Bob and Pam as much as we do here at Alfred. So congratulations, hope you're having a wonderful evening.
Hi Bob and Pam, congratulations on this wonderful tribute you're being given tonight. I can't think of two people who deserve it more, and I wish I could be there in person to help you celebrate. I just wanted to say hello, congratulations, and to tell you how much you both are loved and appreciated at Alfred Music.
Hello Pam and Bob, this is Victor Lopez. I wish you all the best. Enjoy your great evening at the concert. And remember that I sleep with your family picture every night under my pillow. That's how close I have both of you to my heart.
Bob and Pam, I can't tell you how thrilled I was to hear of this tribute concert for you. I've been honored to work with you at Alfred Music for almost 10 years now, and there are no two people more deserving of this tribute. I wish I could say this to you in person, but thank you, both for your contribution to music education and more specifically the string music world. And as closely as we work together, thank you for your friendship and for being so congenial. It would have been an awful 10 years if I didn't like you so much.
Hi, Bob and Pam. I'd like to offer a toast to one of the greatest couples I know. I fondly remember when you hosted me in your home in the spring of 2011. I'd like to offer our invitation to you to come out to the spectacular Rocky Mountains and see Lois and Jerry's home in Estes Park, Colorado.
I actually initially met the Phillips' colleagues when we got partnered with the purchase of Belwin about 9 years ago. I found them to just a bit odd. I like that, I like odd. Bob, or String Bob, as we refer to him, really thinks like a band director. Maybe it's the Michigan influence. But even though he thinks in sharps, we found ways to easily communicate. I've just still been curious why we don't have a Block M march for beginning strings, but maybe that's next year. Anyway, then there's Pam, and Bob should thank his lucky stars for Pam. She's even more band director-like. She thinks logically, she plans, she keeps everyone on task. So from my rather remote perspective, Bob's the big picture guy, always has a great idea, maybe even a dozen of them in one breath. Sometimes you have to buckle up just to talk to him. And Pam's the pragmatist. She keeps him in line, focused. I think she's kind of like the drill designer for our orchestra world. Everyone's in their place and doing their thing.
My favorite things about Bob and Pam are they're so genuine. Every time you talk to them, you know that they mean it when they ask how are you, and they ask you how your family is, and they remember what you said last time, and they're just so real and so loving. And I noticed that from the start from them, and it made me feel so welcome at Alfred. So that's my favorite thing about them. There are a million other things, but that's what comes to mind. So say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
It's just been an absolute joy to have you with us for all these years. I've said this to you many times before, but you two are the hardest working, most creative, most dedicated, and most upbeat people I've ever met. And I think you uplift us all, you make us all want to work harder, and you make it such fun to work where we work. And I'm looking forward to working with you for many more years.
I haven't known Pam or Bob nearly as long as the Saline folks have, but it's easy to see just how they've touched so many people in such a positive way. Congratulations and have a great night.
And I add my sincere congratulations to you for this honor.
Enjoy the tribute, and congratulations again from me and all the other folks at Alfred that love working with you so much.
So enjoy your night tonight, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
next speaker is one of those amazing Bob and Pam kids. She's the Director of Drama and Auditorium Manager for the Saline Schools. Rebecca Driscoll, please welcome Rebecca to the stage. Where are you, Rebecca? Are you going to speak back there? Are you going to come up here? She's back there. You going to come up here?
I'm here.
Anybody see it?
I'm here.
Okay.
I gotta get outside.
I hear you, but I can't see it because I'm not blind in the dark. Okay. Good.
I want to welcome you all here tonight. It's so wonderful to have our beautiful theater filled. That does my heart so good, I cannot tell you. I'm very fortunate to have the job of running this space. And I'm also a very proud graduate of the Saline High School theater, choir, and orchestra programs. So, yeah. So, I feel very fortunate to have the opportunities I had as a child. And obviously, Bob Phillips was very instrumental in my beginnings as a music student. Another person who was very important to me in the beginning orchestra program was Bonnie Rideout. We started together. We were best buddies all the way through orchestra. So I'm very pleased to introduce her, and also our alumni orchestra that is coming up next. So music is a lifelong thing. I tell our kids that all the time. I picked up my violin recently after not playing for a long time. And I really remembered how joyful it was to play an instrument I'd forgotten. So I hope to continue, I think, playing my violin now that I've gotten back into it for this program. But I want to introduce Bonnie. She is a fabulous fiddle player. We are so proud of her here in Saline. So I want to go ahead and introduce her, Bonnie Rideout. Please welcome her.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm not making a speech, I was just going to play, but so I'll tell you what I'm going to play. I thought quite a while about this. What should I play? It's something so special. And I thought I would choose a pibroch. Pibroch means large music in Scots Gaelic. And I think large music is what we have here tonight. So I thought it would be most appropriate. It is the classical music of the Highland bagpipes. And a pibroch starts with an urler or a ground, and then its variations that shows off all the ornamentations that the piper does. But there were 15 pibroch written for the fiddle all in the 17th century, and I've spent my lifetime recording them and writing new pibroch. It's a musical journey, and I think when I think about Bob and Pam, over 30 years, we've had a fabulous journey in life, and so I dedicate this to them. This pibroch is called A Lament for the Horses of Uist, and there's a story, like so many pibroch. And this story is about the horses in Uist in World War I, and if you've ever seen War Horse, that took place in Ireland, but that's what this story is about. The British forces came to the Isle of Uist, and they were horse people. And they started at the north end of the island, and they drove all the horses to the south end and into the sea, and off to World War II, never to be seen again. And it was a very tragic moment, and pibroch is about those moments, those large moments. So if you listen closely, I hope you can hear the story of the journey of these horses into their tragic end. But the beauty of the animal itself, I hope I portray in this piece I wrote, again, called The Horses of Uist.
There will be a 20-minute break after the next one to set the stage for the alternative styles groups in the aftermath. But I need to make sure we all thank Sheila Graziano for the evening. Please give her a big round. American Orchestra is next, and it's one of the strangest looking high school orchestras I've ever seen. Here we go.
an amazing first half. Welcome back, and we are so excited for the musical treats you are in for on the second half. I'm Becky Bush. This is Sarah Lenhart and Katie Bowers. In Saline, we are probably better known as the Phillips Girls, and we are honored to be leading you. We are very honored to be leading you through the second half of the tribute to my parents. We are going to get right into some awesome music. You already met Jed Fritzmeyer, the MC for the first half. He student taught with my dad, as he said, in 1984, and things came full circle for our family when I was lucky enough to student teach with him in 2001. He is the orchestra director in Chelsea and has grown the program to include over 380 students. He has performed on the double bass in just about every regional orchestra in Michigan, taught at summer camps, presented at state conferences, and guest conducted in several states. He also founded the Chelsea Celtic Fiddling Program in 1996. They have performed at music festivals throughout the Midwest, including the Alma Highland Games, and with artists such as Barrage, Simon Mayer, and Bowfire. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the Chelsea House Orchestra.
awesome. Woo! I have the privilege of introducing Representative Gretchen Driscoll, Saline's longest-serving and first female mayor. She is currently the state representative for Michigan's 52nd House District, including all of Washington County. She lives in Saline, her children play in the orchestras, and she has been a longtime supporter of the orchestra program and fiddlers. I introduce to you Representative Gretchen Driscoll.
Thanks and good evening. It's great to be here, like coming home. Actually, it is home. And I'm actually here in two roles. The first role, and one that I'm extremely privileged to have, is as your state representative. It's really delightful actually to be representing also the Chelsea House Orchestra now. I come from, as you heard, my roots are here in Saline, and I was very fortunate to be elected official here in Saline. And so in that role, I think it's, all of us know how important it is to have the kind of music programs that we have, and how important public education system is, and how important it is to our communities, to our quality of life, and to the values that we all share. So I'm really honored to have a tribute here, which I will be, because I think that Phillips will be up here later tonight. It's a special tribute on behalf of all the citizens in the state of Michigan. And it's really to recognize the decades of service that Bob and Pam have given, not only to the Saline community, the Chelsea community, but as you heard earlier, to the greater music community and to all of us who enjoy music and experience of sharing music with our children and all the generations together. So this tribute is signed by myself, our Senator in Richardville, and also Governor Snyder. And it talks a lot about all the experiences that they've had over the years, and especially what we heard today about how they've shared their their books and everything throughout the country. So my other role, it's actually really a personal role, is as mom. I was really fortunate to have 3 children in the music program, and my first memory of Bob and Pam Phillips was when, as a young mother, on a really hot summer day in July, I think some of you that are here might remember this day, it was the first year of the Saline Celtic Festival. And at the time, my children were 2 and 6 and 8. And we sat in the grass, and I don't even know if there was a showmobile. I'm trying to remember if there was even a stage, but I remember it was really hot. We were sitting on the grass, and there was this really cool group called the Fiddlers, Philharmonic. And it was, my kids actually had learned to play violin at a pretty young age through the Suzuki program that was mentioned earlier. So they all actually played violin. So we were just gaga. We just thought this was the coolest thing. I'd never actually been, heard fiddling music before, and we became groupies really quickly. So raise your hand here if anybody here has been a groupie of the Fiddlers here in Saline. That's why we're all here, right? So I think that, what Bob and Pam Phillips brought, this incredible joy of music and the sharing that they've done over the generations. I remember seeing Bonnie Rideout, and Brad Phillips, Jerry McKill, and many, many other musicians that are world-renowned musicians. And they came from Saline. And I used to say it was the iron in our water, and now we have an iron removal plant, so I can't say that anymore. But really, where it came from, right? The people, the leaders, the people that really recognize what it takes, and it takes a whole community to make a music program like this. So again, I'd like to thank Sheila, but also there's a whole bunch of other volunteers that really make these programs work. I was fortunate, well, let me just, first of all, I would like to have everybody give a round of applause to all the volunteers that put this event together tonight, and also Sheila. I just wanted to mention that I was fortunate to have all my kids played in the music program. My oldest actually played with orchestra. He did try out for the Fiddlers one year and didn't make it, and decided he liked classical better, and he did very well in the classical program. And then my middle son also played violin, and he ended up moving into upright bass, and he was upright bass in the orchestra, and then he ended up playing a little bit of that jamming that you saw earlier on electric bass with the Fiddlers Restrung for 4 years. And then my daughter, who was 4 years behind him, started with violin, but also realized that she had her own niche, and she picked up the piano and clarinet, and ended up playing keyboards for the Fiddlers after, and when she got into high school. And what I learned from that is it's an incredibly growing experience for all the young people. They get to travel all over the world and see really wonderful places, but most importantly, share this incredible love of music. And where do we get all this from? Bob and Pam Phillips. So really, thank you so much, Bob and Pam, for this incredible legacy that you left not only with the Saline community, but throughout the state and country. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Driscoll. I can remember when I was about 12 years old, I came home from 2 weeks of Interlochen Fine Arts Camp, and my dad and sisters were just raving about this group they saw called the Calgary Fiddlers. My dad said, I'm going to do that for my students. He had always wanted to provide a performing opportunity for students outside of classical concerts, and so the inspiration for the Saline Fiddlers Philharmonic was born. On video, we now have the innovators and musical director of the Calgary Fiddlers and of International Performing Ensemble Barrage. Their amazing skills and leadership have influenced so many students in the Saline community. Here are Dean Marshall and John Crosman.
Hey, Dean. I think that's close enough for jazz, man. I think we're good. Oh, okay. We're good to go there, man.
Okay, all right, John. All right, here we go.
All right.
Woo-hoo. Here we go.
Start her off.
All ready, man.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
Hey, Dean.
What's that?
You know, man, how many string bass players does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh, it takes none, John.
What do you mean, none?
Yeah, it can do. A piano player can do with his left hand.
Are you sure this isn't a bass tune? I've heard this before somewhere. Huh? Bass tune?
I don't think it's a bass tune, John.
Sounds out of
It's
tune
not
like a bass tune, doesn't it?
Well, but it's out of tune like a bass. But
Well, there you go. Well, Dean, come to think of it, but doesn't a bass have, 4 strings on a bass as well?
Well, no. There's just one string, and then there's 3 spares.
Hey, Dean, I was reading a story on Twitter this morning.
What's that?
I'm into that new technology stuff.
Twitter?
Well, it's hard to get on my BlackBerry, but it's I'm into it. So yeah, it was about a drummer, man. He locked his keys in his car. Now, can you imagine that? A drummer locking keys in his car.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. Well, apparently it took him 4 hours to get the bass player out.
Oh, John, just let me check my emails.
Yeah,
here.
sure, man. No problem.
Hold on a second.
No problem.
No, John, it says here, it's not bass player jokes, John.
Not bass player? I thought it was bass player jokes.
No. She was saying she would like us to just do a tribute to a bass player.
A tribute to any particular bass player?
A really good bass player.
Yeah, a really good one?
Yeah,
where from?
It's really good.
From Lethbridge or from Mezzanine?
From the States there.
From the States?
He's hot.
He's hot. Which one's that?
Mr. Bob Phillips.
Bob Phillips. Well, Bob and Pam.
And Pam Phillips.
Well, there's the better half always.
Absolutely.
That's Pam for sure, isn't it? Yeah. No, Bob and Pam, we love you guys, and it's been a long time, and we're not going to tell people how long, but it's been a real pleasure, knowing you all these years and watching you do the fabulous things that both of you do, and watching you reinvent yourself with what you're doing now. But, the ventures that we've been in have been a lot of fun here. We look forward to many years here of working together. And we just wanted 18 to wish you the best.
Absolutely amazing. We wish you all the best. And we're very excited for you in this tribute. I hope you have a wonderful time.
You're great people, and it's really a pleasure to call you friends. So have a good one.
All the best.
Our next video speaker, Corey Smith, grew up in the Saline Fiddlers, went on to perform in the cast of Barrage, was a director of Fiddlers Restrung, is a music educator, and is now performing full-time with the Adam Esmer Group. Her amazing Saline family includes alumni Brandon Smith, who now performs with the Appleseed Collective, and her parents Sherry and Doug Smith, who have been influential in the development of the fiddling program. Here is Corey Smith.
Bob and Pam Phillips have been so influential in my life that it would be impossible to give them a proper tribute without keeping you all here for days. So here are just a few of the moments that stand out the most to me. Many of us probably share the memory of being shuffled into an elementary school gym and watching a larger-than-life comedian of a music teacher demonstrate the hottest and fastest violins as they zoomed around the room on wheels, painted flames blazing. From an outside perspective, this may seem like a clever trick to get kids in the classroom door, but in my memory, there was no trick. Our beginner classroom was just as full of fun and excitement and magic all the time. It takes a brave teacher to travel to a national convention with 50 10-year-olds whom he's just met. It takes someone even braver to organize the whole thing, and nobody can organize like Pam Phillips. My first memories of Pam include an army of excited 5th graders and a handful of inexperienced and somewhat exhausted parent volunteers trekking through the city of Chicago. We came through the trip with no students or instruments lost or damaged, every scheduled event running perfectly on time, and it was a fun trip to boot. Only the miracle of Pam could pull off such a feat. It's actually even more miraculous if you know some of the boys in that 5th grade class. Middle school can be a difficult transition for a lot of kids, and I was no exception. I was shy and awkward and extremely self-conscious, and I took everything in my life incredibly seriously. But Mr. Phillips balanced high standards with an environment of judgment-free, be-who-you-want-to-be silliness. Each day I had 47 minutes, or twice that amount on Fiddle Club and Creative Arts Orchestra days, to relax, learn, and stop worrying about that invisible audience that lives in every adolescent's mind. I'd always felt powerfully connected to music, but had never dared to consider the possibility that I could become a skilled musician myself until one day early in 8th grade when Bob asked me whether I was planning on auditioning for Fiddler's Philharmonic. I still remember where I was in the room, what I was wearing that day. It's never left my mind. I'm not sure how many other students he might have asked the same exact question, but the fact that Bob believed in me was enough for me to start believing in myself and pushing myself to become the musician he thought I could be. I've never forgotten that moment, and it's taught me that the things people say to each other in passing can be incredibly powerful. High school for me was a mix of wonderful memories and some difficult ones, but throughout those years, Bob and Pam were 2 trusted adults in my life who I could always count on. When I decided in high school that I might want to pursue a career as a music educator, Bob helped me set up cadet teaching credits with my counselor so that I could spend part of each school day on a podium in front of real music students. He even let me conduct my little brother's orchestra at festival. Gutsy move, Mr. P. He and Pam helped me look at colleges, taught me what to expect at auditions, and gave me some questions to ask each university when making my decision. I know that's a familiar story for a lot of you also. And to their credit, they even stood by me when I eventually became a Spartan. I'm overwhelmed by the opportunities Bob and Pam have given me over the 20 years that I've known them, and although each experience has influenced and changed me, it's impossible to describe all of the lessons that they've taught me. One thing that amazes me is the way that they continue to look out for, take interest in, and be proud of their former students for the rest of their lives. We as former students have gone on to become doctors, lawyers, parents, artists, teachers, community leaders, entrepreneurs, had countless adventures and remarkable lives in all kinds of different ways. And Bob and Pam have helped shape each of our lives, and it's incredibly empowering to know that they're proud of each of us and our individual achievements. Nowadays, I spend my life traveling around the country, playing in an independent band, managing logistics behind the scenes, helping coordinate charity events, teaching the occasional workshop, networking with other organizations, and maintaining very close relationships with my 5 bandmates and our extended work family. These things should all sound familiar to anyone who's spent time with Bob and Pam. It's amazing all of the ways that my lifestyle now is informed by the lessons that they've taught me all throughout the years. Of course, they taught me about music, taught me to have good organizational and time management skills, and kept me out of trouble, at least mostly. But more importantly, they taught me how to work hard while having fun, how to create a community and why that matters, and what it means to be good to the people in your life. Thank you, Bob and Pam. Here's to my second family, my heroes.
Our next speaker was a violinist in the high school orchestra and was one of the first student sound technicians for the Fiddler's Philharmonic. He stayed on as technical director for several years and then continued on to MSU in political science and has been involved with several startup companies locally and nationally. His creativity, caring personality, and drive to have a positive effect on the world was a tremendous asset to the Saline Fiddlers. Mr. Dan Koss.
Getting in front of the microphone and not having an introduction, and it usually extends to, hey, 1, 2, 1, 2. So hopefully I'm not teaching a lesson as to why you keep the sound guy on the other side of the microphones tonight. Yeah, I started off tonight weeks ago thinking about what to say, all the various ways that Bob and Pam positively influenced me, and ostensibly most of you, all of you wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. There's actually quite a long list of positive ways that they've influenced me. Could talk about the orchestra program and its influence on us, the Saline Fiddlers' influence on the community, on the state, on the country, on the world. There's a lot of different ways I can talk about how they positively influenced us as individuals, two of which I'm going to briefly touch on. The first is focus. I don't know if we're all aware of how valuable focus is, but it's something that's been slowly occurring to me in life. Last year, I ran into a former fiddler who won second place in a world welding competition. She's the #2 welder in the world. And I asked him, what does it take to be the #2 welder in the world? He said, well, practice. And I actually owe the Saline Fiddlers for teaching me how to practice. If it weren't for practicing welding day in and day out, even when I'm not on the job, I never would have won this competition. He said I owe the Fiddlers that. Who would have thought that the medium through which Bob and Pam operate music would extend to something like welding? It was pretty amazing. The second one is trust. Bob and Pam Phillips taught me to trust like no one else has before me. It was actually an insane amount of trust they gave us, especially in the Fiddlers. For those of you who aren't aware, when we're out on the road, you do host housing. You stay in basically perfect strangers' houses. So they trusted high schoolers to travel to far foreign lands, different countries, different states, and sleep in their houses. I always thought that was pretty amazing because a lot of parents don't trust their kids to go trick-or-treating around the block now, let alone travel to faraway land with the town pride behind them, with Bob and Pam Phillips' reputation on the line, and there was no question about that. There's a myriad of other topics I could discuss tonight, but I realize that there's a common thread that runs through all of these ways that they positively influenced us, and that is love. Bob and Pam Phillips are two of the most loving people that any of us have had the pleasure of having in our lives. They created organizations and creations that around things that they love, and they brought people into those organizations and loved them unquestionably. I think that's a pretty powerful thing today, and something to keep in mind. And love is the reason that we're here tonight. Love begets love. Love reciprocates with love. And we're all in this room tonight because we received the love from Bob and Pam, and tonight we're giving it back to them. And it's a really incredible circle that's being completed tonight. And it's a result of an incredible example that Bob and Pam have set for all of us. And I hope that we all have the strength to follow their example, because it truly, obviously, makes the world a better place. So thank you, Bob and Pam.
Alumni of the orchestra program and Saline Fiddlers, has gone on to develop a 350-member string program and the Tecumseh Fiddlers in Tecumseh, Michigan. She has presented sessions at the Michigan Music Conference, the National ASTA Conference, and was the national chair of the Eclectic Styles Committee for ASTA. Here is Amy Marr. I have struggled basically my entire life. I've known Bob and Pam since literally before I was born. My mom was a colleague of Bob's at U of M. They went through their undergraduate program together. And my dad worked here in Saline for many, many years with Bob. So literally my entire life, to be summed up in 3 to 5 minutes, is a really tough thing to tackle. Ever since, one of my first memories is honestly being at the Saline Fair, singing in the talent show. Bob was emceeing, Pam was running logistics to make all of those things happen. Throughout my life, Bob and Pam, outside of orchestra and outside of fiddlers, continue to just keep popping up in my life. From Choi Kwan Do, I don't know if many of you know this, but Bob is a black belt. Bob and Katie, my brother and myself, all received our black belts together in Choi Kwan Do growing up, and so we had that. Pam taught me how to put on eyeliner in Mary Kay. So, all of these great things. I had pigs. I showed pigs, and I named pigs after Becky, Sarah, and Katie. I still don't know if that's something to be proud of or not, but there it is. But so all of these different really great fun memories of my childhood keep coming to mind. But then there's all of the orchestra ones and fiddler ones, and I just can't tell you how amazing my experiences here in Saline were and continue to be. They influence who I am now, both as a musician and as an educator. We don't realize when we're here in Saline in our little bubble, when we're middle schoolers and high schoolers, how really truly fortunate we are to be in a community like this and to have the experiences that Bob and Pam were able to afford us and give us. From being able to have a group such as fiddlers, to be able to work with guest artists and clinicians in our classical classroom. I remember in 11th grade, we had someone bring in a Stradivarius violin, and that person actually trusted high schoolers to try playing on it. And those are just things that Bob and Pam worked together to be able to bring to us. I've been teaching orchestra in Tecumseh for 11 years now, and I'm really fortunate to have been able to take over that program from Bob. Bob and Pam actually started the program after Bob retired from Saline here. He taught here for 27 years, and then received a phone call that August from someone saying, from Teresa Powers, actually saying, well, we have this orchestra program that we're trying to start, and we've got kids, but we don't have a teacher for a camp. What do you think? And Bob and Pam came in, and they got those kids excited, and then Bob agreed to end up teaching the class for the year. I won't tell you whether or not Pam knew about that before he agreed to teach the class for the year. But they started the program, and then I was able to come in and take over for them. And my goal was to just live up to the expectations that Bob and Pam had set. They had created a 10-year plan, and they started with 36 kids, and in the 10-year plan it said, well, in the second year you should be able to recruit 40. So I went in and I said, okay, I've just got to do this, and I used all of the Bob Phillips recruiting techniques, had the Chelsea House Orchestra come in and perform for the kids, got really excited, got the principals up on stage and everything. I ended up with 102 students signing up for orchestra. And so the program has continued to grow since then, and some of the things that I've learned here in Saline and carried into Tecumseh are just providing the opportunities to the students. We were really fortunate that we were able to work with guest artists like Randy Sabine, who you'll be able to hear next. But we had these opportunities to be able to work with these guest artists and see music from all different perspectives, to see the music business side of music and not just the classical orchestra side, which is amazing and incredible, and I don't discount that at all. But there is so much more to music than just the classical orchestra side. And Bob opened our eyes to that. So I still share those experiences with my students. We bring in guest artists to perform with them and to be able to work with them. And of course, none of that is possible without knowing how to run logistics. And if you want to know how to run logistics for something, you talk to Pam Phillips, because she is the mastermind for all of this. I can remember sitting at a Fiddler's Retreat in 1996 at Camp Murdy, and I actually still have the handouts in my Fiddler's binder, if that tells you anything about this, but it was all about time management. And she sat us down and we had graphs, we had to write in what we do each day and what's important and everything like that. And there was an analogy about ships in the harbor, and the harbor only holds so many ships, and you have to figure out what's important to you, and that sort of thing. And that's really stuck with me in terms of trying to prioritize and teaching my students to prioritize as well. Some other things that they've taught me over the years, especially when I was taking over the program in Tecumseh, they invited me out to their home for a weekend to just go over the nitty-gritty details. So we sat down and I had the talk with Bob about the vision, because he's the big picture person. And then Pam sat down and told me how to really make everything work, because she's the detail person. And so some of the things, I already mentioned the recruiting, but just some other little tidbits. Proofread like crazy. Make sure that your paperwork is always accurate. That way, if you ever do make a mistake, people are going to be willing to forgive you, than if it's a constant thing. Communication is key with parents, administration, community, colleagues, and students. Corey Smith puts it in this way, but it's exactly what Bob and Pam taught us. Teamwork makes the dream work. Without being able to work together, it doesn't happen. This one I used to have problems with, and I've gotten better. I think it's probably because I play viola more than violin these days. But stay level-headed and go in with potential solutions. You always want to make sure that you have the solution to whatever problem can come up. And remember that the program, or whatever you're doing, isn't about you as the teacher. It's about the kids and the experiences that you're giving them. It's never, this is really tough on me, but this is really tough on the kids. What can we do to make it better for them? Or, this was a really great thing for the kids. Again, it's not about, if someone tells me, wow, your concert was really great, it's always, the kids did a great job. It's not about me. It's not my experience. It's those students having that experience and being able to share that with everyone. To this day, I know that no matter what is going on, I can pick up the phone and call Bob and Pam, and they will listen, they will give advice, they will help in whatever way they can, despite the fact that they are constantly on the road and traveling and crazy and writing and being spoken to from people from all over the country and world. I remember calling Bob once on his cell phone, and he picked up and he said, well, I'm actually in a meeting with the head of Yamaha right now, so let me call you back. But he answered while he was in the middle of this meeting because he wanted to make sure that everything was taken care of. A couple other things, Bob and Pam are the definition of balance. It's funny because at music conventions and things like that, you can just say, well, every Bob needs a Pam, and everybody knows what that means because it's so true. They balance each other out, and they're just amazing together. And all the things that have happened here, it takes both of them, and it takes knowing that you can see that if you are a Bob, I tend to be more of a Bob, and so my husband is the Pam, and he's okay with that. But just knowing that there's that balance. There's so many more things I could say. I have pages and pages, but let me just close with this. We were sitting at an ASTA conference a couple years ago, I think it was at a jam session, and we had played Blackberry Blossom, which in high school was my least favorite fiddle tune ever. I don't know why I hated that tune so much, but I really did. And Bob said, that sounded really good, and I mentioned something about, hey, how I hated that tune and I refused to play it sometimes, and I just said, I'm really sorry for that. And he said, you know what, that's all right, we worked through it, that's what families do. And that really stuck with me because truly, fiddlers, orchestra, our Saline music community is a family. Outside of my own family, I can't think of any other people who have had more influence on my life than Bob and Pam. And I'm sure that many of us here in this room would say the same thing. So, thank you for absolutely everything. This truly feels like a real life Mr. Holland's opus right now because we've all come together for this. As we've been saying in the Alumni Orchestra all day long. And my life would not be the same without you. Most of our lives in here would not be nearly as incredible as they have been without everything that you've done for us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's now my honor to introduce you to our next performers, Randy Sabine. I first met Randy as an 8th grader here in Saline when Bob brought him to work with our orchestras, and I've been fortunate enough to work with him in several capacities since then. Randy is a jazz violinist, but for Randy, the term jazz violin is little more than the name of the musical genre where his recordings are found. He regularly steps beyond the boundaries of what many think of as jazz, forging headlong into the worlds of rock, blues, and funk. He began as a classical violinist, and then at age 19 was reborn with the discovery you can play jazz on the violin. He's been a pioneer and leader in eclectic string music and modern string education. He created the first college degree program for contemporary string performance at Berkeley in Boston in 1978, and now he's the founding chair of the string department at O'Malley Smith College of Music in St. Paul, Minnesota. Randy and Bob co-authored the books Jazz Philharmonic and Jazz Philharmonic Second Set. Randy will be joined by Jed Fritzmeyer and Jesse Mason to perform the first tune out of Jazz Philharmonic, doing for the first time. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Yes, thank you very much. In June 1993, I got lucky. That's when I met Bob Phillips. Definition of luck, opportunity, mean preparation. I don't know how you prepare yourself to meet Bob Phillips, but evidently I had taken the necessary steps. And I was teaching a workshop in Ann Arbor. Bob Culver put together the American String Workshop, and he hired me to do some jazz classes for string teachers. And Bob was one of the students in that class, and he comes up to me at some point during the week, introduces himself, says, "Hi, I'm Bob Phillips. I'd like to write a book with you." I thought, well, you probably say that to all the guys, don't you? But he was serious, and I learned that a lot of the ideas that he comes up with, he's serious about. He's not messing around. And we did end up writing a book. We ended up writing a couple of books and teaching some camps together. And he brought me in here to work in Saline schools many times and with the fiddlers. And it's been a wonderful collaboration and been great to know Bob and Pam. And so I was thinking, what song can I play? What piece of music would be the most appropriate thing I could play tonight? And I thought I'd play the first tune out of the first book that we wrote. It's kind of the bane of our existence. It's plagued us. So here it is, grooving for the millionth time.
Dan, I'm just going to use this mic.
Our guest by video, Dr. Andrew Debshinsky, is co-author with my dad of the Fiddler's Philharmonic series, which has made fiddle music accessible in the string classroom for students across the country. He is a composer, educator, performer, and currently professor of music education at Brigham Young University. His wife, Diane Debshinsky, is a vocalist and performer who has also recorded many commercials. And both are very good friends of my parents.
This is Diane Debshinsky for World String Teachers News. As everyone knows by now, the string teaching world is set to honor those sultans of strings, Pam and Bob Phillips. Theirs is a story of American grit and determination, overcoming obstacles, and finally arriving at the pinnacle of string teaching stardom. Or so we think. Today I'm interviewing Mr. Hamilton Heimer, who is about to release a new book, String Explorer from Outer Space, The Untold Story of Bob and Pam Phillips. Mr. Heimer, your mustache.
It's real.
Mr. Heimer.
Oh, please. You can call me Hamilton.
Okay, Hamilton, how did you first come to know Pam and Bob Phillips?
Well, I really don't know them, but I've known about them for a really long time. Back in the early 70s, Bob and I both auditioned for the University of Michigan School of Music. That year, they accepted 8 bass students, and let's just say this. I was number 9. See what I mean?
No.
Oh, well, think about it. Anyway, Bob Phillips gets into the University of Michigan on bass. I mean, come on. A few years later, he actually graduates. Oh, please. And wouldn't you know, Pam is there. Pam is always there. And me? I have to switch to viola, and I wind up at Eastern Arizona College of Mining and Fine Arts. See what I mean? See.
Not really. It sounds like you simply weren't good enough to get into...
Hey, it goes deeper than that. I've been doing some research. You see, it all comes down to Pam. Have you noticed how Bob can't seem to do anything without Pam? I mean, let's face it. She's got the looks. She's got the brains. And she's got the money. Every time you turn around, there's Pam.
Yes, but...
It turns out, and I found this out because I know a guy who has a friend down at Motor Vehicles. So, anyway, it turns out that Pam has high security clearance.
High security clearance? From whom? For what?
It doesn't matter. Anyway, she's got it. And before both of them turn up in Ann Arbor, well, she's out in Area 51.
You mean Area 51 in Nevada? Like the secret Air Force base that supposedly deals with UFOs and all that?
Yeah, that's the place. Pam turns up there, and she's assigned to work in alien identification. Look, I've got proof.
That doesn't look at all like Pam Phillips. And that doesn't really look like a real alien.
Oh, well, don't get sucked in like everybody else. That's Pam Phillips, all right. Listen, I told you, I know this guy who has a friend down at Motor Vehicles. He's looked into it. He's checked it out. It's her. It's her. I mean, it's her. Look at that manic grin. Oh, it's Pam Phillips, all right. It's Pam Phillips, baby.
Okay, so even if that is Pam Phillips standing next to a real alien, what does all this have to do with Bob?
Isn't it convenient that she's out there in Area 51 working with aliens? Then all of a sudden, she's back in Ann Arbor with Bob. And like that, he's this super bass player, string teacher guy.
Are you suggesting that Bob Phillips is an alien? That alien we saw in that picture? Bob Phillips is an alien that came to Earth in a flying saucer?
Hey, it all adds up. But of course they didn't just send him out there back to Michigan like that picture. They did some work on him. First, look at the resemblance. And now this next picture is when they're getting him ready for plastic surgery, which I don't think turned out all that particularly well. There you go. But then they dress him up and show him that flying saucer one more time. You know, they want to pump some info out of him. Look at this.
You're saying that's Bob Phillips?
Yes, the guy on the left. Clear as day. And see, they've even got an Air Force bodyguard with him. I have another picture with him taking a German bow and a mandolin off of that flying saucer. You'll see it. It's going to be in the book.
Well, I really don't know.
Okay. You tell me, how else does a bass player come out of nowhere? He becomes like this super musician. He marries a totally super efficient, totally personable babe like Pam. He becomes a phenomenal string teacher. He gets like 27, 35, 49, 128 Teacher of the Year awards. He influences a whole generation of string players and teachers. He gets elected president of every music teacher organization under the sun. He raises a wonderful family, has a slew of grandchildren, and still remains a really nice guy. How exactly does that happen?
So, Hamilton, let me get this straight. You're saying that Pam Phillips is a highly placed government agent, and she found an alien at Area 51 who she somehow turned into the super string teacher we know as Bob Phillips?
Do you have a better explanation?
Well, not at the moment. Thank you, Hamilton Heimer.
String Explorers from Outer Space, it comes out next week.
This is Diane Dabchinsky for World String Teacher News. Good night.
Joining us. Jim is a former Saline Public Schools teacher. He is currently on the Saline City Council. Jim and Joan have been very involved with our sister city, Brecon, Wales, and have also been the expert Saline Fiddlers tour travel agents, helping lead us on tours to DC, London, Scotland, and Wales. Here are Jim and Joan Roth.
Bob and Pam. Thank you for inviting us to be a part of Saline Fiddlers Philharmonic. We remember sitting on a blanket on the grass behind the Saline Firehouse as you shared your dream to create Saline Fiddlers Philharmonic. As we recall, that was in 1992. By 1994, the group was off on their first tour. It was an absolute joy working with you and Pam and the talented youth.
Our hearts were always warmed with pride for the phenomenal talents of the youth. Thank you and the many dedicated parents for allowing us the opportunity to share the pride, both for the participant and for representing Saline.
It's been a pleasure meeting and making new friends. We hope in some small way we were of some help in fulfilling your Saline Philharmonic Fiddler dream. May your dreams continue and the opportunity for Saline's youth fiddlers to grow and share their talents.
Thank you, Bob and Pam, for your friendship.
excited I am to introduce our next artist. A former student in the Saline Orchestras and the Saline Philharmonic, Jeremy Kittle now has a bio that just won't quit. Jeremy has earned a reputation as one of the most exceptional violinists and fiddlers of his generation, with tremendous musicality and a rare mastery of styles as diverse as jazz, Scottish and Irish fiddle, bluegrass, classical music, and more. Jeremy has certainly made his musical mark on the world. He leads the Jeremy Kittle Band, solos with orchestras around the country, has just completed a 5-year full-time position in the Grammy-winning Turtle Island String Quartet, and has released his latest CD, Chasing Sparks, which includes artists such as Edgar Meyer, Chris Daly, and Mike Marshall. He soloed last night with Louisville Symphony and drove in just this afternoon for tonight. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jeremy Kittle.
There was a power strip up here. But, like so many things in life, here one moment. Exactly, gone next. Can we get a little power up here, please?
Yep, we're working on it, Jeremy.
Great, thank you. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Well, hello. So I thought that since the concert is going a little long, that instead of just playing music, I would also talk. I'm going to talk. Just a moment. And say, that when I think of Pam and Bob, I'm struck by the boundless potential that each one of us has to lead positive, impactful lives, and that they've so very well demonstrated throughout the years for so many of us. And I'm struck by how each choice that we make has an effect on our own lives, on the lives of our friends, our communities, all of humanity, all of the universe, for quite arguably all of eternity. And as a musician, one of the things that always amazes me is how everything that you know, everything you've learned over the years as a musician affects the way that you approach every single note. So every single note is affected by your experience, and the choices that you make are affected by your experience. And as difficult as it was sometimes to get up for those 7 a.m. experimental improvisational classes all those years ago, I can tell you that all of the challenges that we had and all of the opportunities for growth and encouragement that we received throughout those years shaped our experiences and affect all of the choices that we make today that we're able to make. And indeed, all of the notes that you're about to hear. Every single note. And we're going to play two kind of ferocious Celtic fiddle tunes, some new tunes. I'd like to dedicate these to Pam and Bob. And they're ferocious, but it's not a ferocity of anger, don't mistake. It's a ferocity and a dedication to their persistence and their ferocity of faith in themselves and the people around them and the lives that you have touched over the years. And I'm really delighted to have one of my old friends, Jesse Mason, join me on guitar. And I hope you enjoy them. Thank you, Pam and Bob. or as I like to say, Bob and Pam.
Professor Stephen Ships began his career as a violinist in a little orchestra called the Cleveland Orchestra, was a solo violinist on the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas series, is currently the director of the International Music Academy in the Czech Republic, and is professor of violin at the University of Michigan, and he's on the board of the Saline Fiddlers. His bio goes on, but as a former student of Professor Ships, I have experienced his passion for music, music education, and his students. What's rare is, and he's an internationally known classical violin teacher, but what's rare is he also teaches students who do all styles of music, such as Celine's Ben Culver, Brad Phillips, and Jeremy Kittle. Please welcome Professor Stephen Ships.
That boy plays in tune, huh? Wow. I got to know Bob Phillips when I moved to Ann Arbor in 1989. At that time, he was a member of the League of Music Ed in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor was already a leader in music education in America, and he was one of the stars. He had started as a curious figure. He came to Saline and started a program from next to nothing, and it grew and grew and grew and grew, as we've heard tonight. It became a national model for how you build string programs. Bob brought me in many times to work with his orchestras, and it was always a pleasure to come out and spend an hour working with these immaculately trained young people. He found a way to make everyone play at 140% of their talent. His groups always played so far beyond what you thought they should play like that it was an inspiration just to come and work with them. Then I found out about this side group called the Saline Fiddlers, and I began attending their hometown shows, and I was privileged to teach Bob's children, and of course the young man you just heard, Brad Phillips, who was here earlier this evening, who had a concert to go to, and the Phillips kids as well. Next thing you know, in my time here, Jeremy is starting to win international contests, and the Fiddlers are playing at the White House, and then the rest is history. Bob's place in the firmament of the most important music educators in the American scene was solidified by the time I'd been here for 10 years. About the time that Bob made his decision to retire from the Saline school system, he decided to become a student again. And that takes courage after you've been one of the great success stories in American musical history. He decided to go back and learn some more things. So we spent a year or more on weekly sessions in which we traced the history of the pedagogy of classical string teaching for the last century. We studied American, European, and Asian techniques, and he digested, understood, and made these part of his world. And just a little sidelight, I was performing as soloist with the U of M Wind Ensemble at Hill Auditorium, and we needed a bass player to play a very difficult part in the Kurt Weill Concerto for violin and wind ensemble. And Bob came in and played it, and as expected, knocked that out of the park too. I don't think he'd practiced for 10 years, and the next thing you know, he sounded like a great pro. At the point that Bob began his new position at Alfred Music, he was tapped to become a true national leader as the president of the American String Teachers Association. We're surrounded by former presidents of the American String Teachers Association in this room. He filled in as the go-to person throughout all of music education. He's continued to mold the careers of up-and-coming teachers, players, and future leaders, and he fulfills this role, obviously, as you can tell from this evening, to this very day. And this brings me to a quick assessment. Bob is part of a remarkable team. He will be the first person to tell you that, as you've heard this evening, none of this would have been possible without Pam. Between them, they will help others in all circumstances. This has nothing to do with music. This has to do with humanity. They raised amazing children who you've all met this evening, if you didn't know them in the past. And I was honored by Bob to teach his daughter. They're helping to raise a great brood of grandchildren. So many I've lost count. And even their son-in-law, Andrew, is a great musician and a wonderful pianist, and he's part of my team too. And he, in true Phillips fashion, will help anyone around him in his life. Family has always been the basis of Bob's life. But there's one other attribute that I must discuss before I close tonight. One other attribute that sets him apart from most humans, and this is his sense of loyalty. Loyalty and friendship. I know in my heart that if I ever need Bob, that he would be there for me with no questions asked. I thank him for that friendship, and I always want him to know that I'm honored to have such a friend. Thank you.
This concert marks the 20th anniversary of the Saline Fiddlers Philharmonic. But many years before fiddlers, for as long as I can remember, we were fiddling as a family. My dad's roots are from the mountains of Appalachia, so of course he grew up listening to bluegrass. He passed on to us this love for the music, and we had our first family fiddling gigs for my kindergarten class at the old Union School, for the talent shows in the Saline Fair, and on the streets of the Ann Arbor Art Fair with my mom as the business manager.
Anyone that doubts my dad's love for bluegrass music should just ask us about growing up and the 13-hour car rides to visit our family in Georgia. Why wouldn't you play the mandolin the entire way there? As soon as we had our driver permits, driving was our job so that he could turn our minivan into a mini music studio. Many tunes that were played in the Saline Fiddlers Philharmonic were arranged on such trips. The Saline Fiddlers, however, would not exist if it weren't for the countless hours Pam Phillips volunteered to run the organization. Her influence went far beyond running the business. She had vision, she taught goal setting to the students, and was a mentor to many. And of course, you already know her biggest challenge was keeping my dad in line.
She went on to become full-time managing editor at Alfred Publishing, producing thousands of music publications, including the Fiddlers Philharmonic books, and overseeing the Suzuki Method publications. She is a frequent presenter at music conferences across the United States. My mom is often behind the scenes in Saline, but her bio has become quite extensive. It is amazing to see the number of lives influenced through music by this team, Bob and Pam Phillips.
We celebrate 20 years of successes of the Saline Fiddlers and of Fiddlers Restrung. And as they unite this year again as one group, we look forward to many, many years of great fiddling ahead. The Saline Fiddlers Philharmonic, high school students who have performed all over the world from the White House and Kennedy Center to Scotland and Great Britain, will now be performing The Roots Go Deep, written for the Fiddlers in 1998 by my dad. Their director, Jimmy Whitman, is an amazing bass player, sound engineer, and teacher. He has spent time at Berklee School of Music and graduated in music education at Eastern Michigan University. Please welcome Mr. Jimmy Whitman.
Thank you. Like so many of you, my first experience with Bob was in school. But it's slightly different, as it wasn't in elementary school or middle school or high school, but actually in college. in my methods class. And it was actually on an instructional DVD teaching teachers how to teach. And so from that moment on, I was changed. And shortly thereafter, taking over Fiddlers Restrung, I found out what an amazing person this was, both Pam and Bob. And over the past few years, getting to know them even better, I'm truly honored to be here representing his legacy in a small way. And truly the roots go deep with this group.
As a founding fiddler, I remember the day when my dad invited the first round of students to join a new performing group. There have been so many students that have been founding members, participated in, graduated from, and launched careers from the Fiddlers. What an honor to have so many here tonight. Please welcome the Fiddler alumni playing Buffalo Gals. And our final guest to close this evening is here on behalf of National ASTA, Dr. Steve Benham. Current president is Associate Professor of Music Education and Director of Graduate Studies for the School of Music at Duquesne. As a leading expert in string pedagogy and teaching, Dr. Benham is in high international demand as a clinician, conductor, adjudicator, and consultant. He has been active in helping many new string programs begin across the United States and all over Europe. Under his direction, more than 20 new community music schools have been started in the Ukraine alone. A national expert in string pedagogy and teaching, he has actually spent time in Michigan teaching in Ann Arbor, Grand Haven, and Holland, and he's become a great friend of my parents. Dr. Steve Benham.
It is an incredible honor to be here this evening. When I saw these students perform, it took me back to 1995, when I sat over at the University of Michigan at the string workshop that Bob Pulver had organized, and Bob Phillips and Pam brought the fiddlers, and I saw like a baby. I've watched students having fun, making music, dancing, singing, and it changed my life forever as a teacher. Thank you, Bob and Pam, for that moment right there. Judy Pollack, who is our colleague at Michigan State University, wanted to be here this evening. She sends her greetings to you as well. She had a family emergency, and she said that she has had her teaching change because of who you are. Bob brought vision, Pam ability to realize, to ask her, and truly, you helped us overhaul the entire organization for the better, and we are grateful. Thank you from Judy Pollack. My own words right now seem completely insufficient to the task that's at hand, so I'm going to steal from the great William Shakespeare. Shakespeare, like Bob Phillips, was a creative genius who saw the world as it should be, not as it was. He also invented more than 2,000 words, and if you spend any time with Bob Phillips, you know he has his own creative vocabulary. Many of the words entirely thought up and not found in the English language. So using Shakespeare seems appropriate tonight. From Hamlet, this business is well ended. My liege, Bob, and Madam Pam, to expostulate what majesty should be, what duty is, why day is day, night, night, and time is time, were nothing but to waste night, day, and time. Therefore, since brevity is the soul of wit, and tediousness the limbs and outward flourishes, I will be brief. So to be brief, Bob and Pam, I offer the following. You have done well. You have worked hard. You have fought the good fight and kept the faith. You have served with grace, passion, and humility, and a lot of old-fashioned hard work and hello grease. You have not been afraid to question institutions and traditions when those things have stood in the way of learning. You have instilled common sense in institutions overflowing with pomposity and self-adulation. You ask, why not? And aren't satisfied with what we have. You have made use of the day, of night and time, and have not wasted the precious moments that our Creator gave you to invest in the cause of beauty and art and life itself. As a result, all of us, our lives, our profession, and our world is a better and brighter place. The music that we've heard tonight that resounds in our schools and our communities is richer, more diverse, more creative, and closer to our souls because of the vision that you have had for what spring education can and should be. Many people have vision, but few have the ability to share that vision with others, to inspire passion and implement change the way that the two of you have done that together. But even the will to get something done isn't enough. Cornel West, the well-known activist, author, and reformer, has said, you can't lead the people if you don't love the people. You can't save the people if you don't serve the people. You have done both. You have loved, and for that reason, we love you and we love each other, and we have followed your leadership. You have served, and as a result, you have saved music and art for thousands of children. Bob, I've known you since 1988 when you came to Grand Haven, Michigan with that group of bass players and this little girl named Katie who played the smallest bass I've ever seen. Gary Carr was there, others, Larry Hutchinson was there, Tim Stoddard was there, and you played music and you opened my eyes to ideas and my mind to the way things could be done. My response was, you can do that? And then the next idea, and the next idea. And I watched Bob teach and learn as much as I could from him. Pam, I don't remember when we first met, probably at the string workshop, but I remember when I became aware in Detroit at the ASTA conference when you rescued us of the incredible mind, talent, organizational abilities you have. But more importantly, and this hasn't been said enough tonight, the heart, dignity, and grace that you share with all of us. Working together now on the ASTA board for several years, I can say with complete confidence that your faith, your family, and friendship stand as testaments to all that you've done. In 1904, an unknown poet named Bessie Anderson wrote a short poem as part of a contest to answer the question, what is success? I will close with her words. They have achieved success who have lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who have gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of little children, who have filled their niche and accomplished their task, who have left the world better than they found it, whether by an improved copy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who have never lacked appreciation of Earth's beauty or failed to express it, who have always looked for the best in others and given the best they had, whose life is an inspiration, whose memory a benediction. On behalf of the American String Teachers Association, string players and string educators everywhere, we thank you.
And now my parents would like to say a few closing words, and the fiddlers will play you out.
I know it's been a really long evening, and the irony of that is not lost on me. It's not the first time you've been to a Bob Phillips event in Saline that went on a long time. But I was going to thank people individually. I can't. There's too many. We would be here forever. I want to thank just some groups, all my Saline colleagues, or some of my teaching colleagues here, administration, anyone that was involved in the Saline area schools. I just thank you so much for coming tonight. And I was fortunate to teach in one of the most wonderful school districts in America, an amazing community, and I learned so much from my colleagues here. And John and Nate, you were a dream to work with. For all my mentors sitting down here, it's just such an honor for me that you came tonight and take this time, because you're also very dear to me. And particularly, I just have to call out Bob Culver, who was one of my earliest education mentors, and opened my mind and freed me to be creative and to take a different path. And I always thank you for that, Bob. Larry Hurst, probably the most influential person in my life, when asked, do you want to play like Larry Hurst? I said yes, but first I have to be a better man. So I want to thank both of you for your friendship and loyalty. I just also want to thank Sheila and Becky for this wonderful event, for all of you students, the former alumni who came from so far away, some of you from Florida, from California. It's so heartwarming. I have so many memories. When I got the list of the students playing on stage tonight, I started immediately putting you in sections and trying to figure out if the balance of the orchestra was going to be good. And Pam looked at me and she said, so I was trying to figure out if it was going to be balanced and whatever. And I looked at the list, and I remember every single student. When I walked in tonight to the rehearsal, I remember every one of you. I remember exactly where you sat in the orchestra. I remember you in 5th grade. I remember you in 8th grade. I remember you in high school. And they're just the greatest memories a person could ever have. Just the entire experience here in Saline is an amazing one, and it was an amazing journey. I can never thank the Saline community enough for the opportunity to be here and do what we did. I want to close with one thing, but I'm going to let Pam say something first.
I do want to just say that we thank you for allowing us to serve to create such an event tonight and a reunion. We have had the most fun watching everyone else get so excited about this and rekindle old friendships and connections, and that's been probably the most fun for us. And a lot of what we really appreciate everything that has been said tonight. It's a little overwhelming, but a lot of it grows out of something we decided very, very early on, that in our lives our faith would come first, and our family, and then career. I think it works.
I would like to again thank all the students, everybody who came tonight, and I just want to read a couple lines to express how I feel. One of my favorite, Becky, it's so wonderful that Becky and Sheila did this tonight, and Becky agreed I know she's Rebecca. I know she's Rebecca. Rebecca and I did many, many musicals together here in Saline, and so she will appreciate this reference. This is from the musical Wicked, and as Glinda sings to Elphaba. I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and that we are led to those who help us most to grow, if we let them. And we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I am who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed the better? But because I knew you, we have been changed for good.